Thank you. I'm going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the Star City Hall. Will you please all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we're going to have Mr. David Axe with the Calvary Church here in Star. Or do you call it the Star Calvary Church? Calvary Chapel Star. He's going to come up and give us our invocation tonight. I turned it on, Ryan. Yep.
All right. Would you bow your heads in prayer with me? Father, we come to you in absolute humility and ask that you would impart to us wisdom for this city. Lord, there's needs all around our nation, but ask that you would give great grace and understanding that would bless not only our neighbors, but our children's children in the decades to come. And Lord, that you would preside and guide our time together. Bless this council and give them great wisdom that would match the opportunities you've given to them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. David. And this is a new church here in Star. And they 4 weeks old, and they got about 500 members already. That's crazy. All right. Roll call.
Kevin Nielsen is
Absent. Overseas.
Jennifer Salmonson.
Here.
Trevor Chadwick.
Here.
Kevin Wheelock.
Here.
David Hershey.
Here.
And Councilman Hershey is attending via Zoom tonight because he's in another part of the country. It's just so you guys are aware. Okay.
Vacation.
Uh-huh.
I'm on vacation. And only time I can see my parents.
That's right. One vacation. All right. We're going to move on to the public hearing for the Royal British Motors. I'm going to let everybody know a little bit about the process tonight. Yep. Okay. It's just odd not having a consent agenda. That threw me off for a minute there. So I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm going to ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this hearing. The applicant will have up to 20 minutes to present their project. The council can ask the applicant and staff questions during that time frame. Then we're going to do public testimony. Each person gets 3 minutes to speak. Typically, those who are for the project will speak first, those who are against second, and then those who are neither against but wish to speak third. The council can ask whoever speaking follow-up questions, and then the applicant will have a 10-minute rebuttal. Again, the council will be able to ask the questions to the staff and applicant at that time. I will then close the public hearing, and the council is going to deliberate. They're either going to make a motion to approve of conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. So with that said, it is 7:03, and I'm going to open the public hearing on the Royal British Motors project and ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication.
None.
No.
None.
David, you say none? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, none.
Yes, I said none.
All right, thank you. So we'll get this, the applicant, let's see here, can come up to the podium there and state your name and address for the record. And then Ryan, is the remote up, the clicker up there? Yep.
I'm not very good at technology.
Well,
so
if
bear
you get
with me.
stuck, I'll push it forward. And our clerk, Jacob Qualls here, will be the timer for that and let you know if you get close to your 20 minutes. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for letting us come together and present our project to you. We are presenting to STAR a conditional use permit. And
Just say your name and address, please, for the record.
Excuse me. My name's Elizabeth Flower. My address is 12702 West Lacerda Court. And that's in STAR 83669.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you all very much for allowing us to come forward with the conditional use permit for the property located at 11220 West Hercules for our repair facility, Royal British Motor Cars. Our company we focus exclusively on British icons. And due to the nature of the vehicles, we work only indoors. Our customers have a certain expectation when they come to our facility. So they're bringing very expensive cars to us. So we work indoors and we're very respectful of these very expensive cars. We want to work with local vendors and local businesses within our community and develop relationships with them, as we have already developed in our current city. We are very concerned about our neighbors. We want to be a good neighbor. So we are not like a normal facility, a normal repair shop. We don't use impact. Well, we don't use a lot of impact. What do you call it? Pardon? Air tools. We are taking, excuse me, you have to forgive me, I'm quite nervous here. I'm normally not at a loss for words, but this is really interesting for me. Anyway, we take tires off of cars, but for the most part, our tools are very specialized for these vehicles. So we're using a lot of hand tools. We're not using a lot of impact tools. We have also limited our hours of operation so that we can make sure that we're addressing the needs of the neighbors. We also, what's very interesting about our particular vehicles is it's not just an in and out oil change. It's actually more of a service. So our services can last anywhere from an hour to 7 hours. So we're only going to be booking in the vehicles that we can accommodate, unless for some extraordinary reason we can't get a part or something like that. In that event, those cars will remain indoors and parked indoors. So we're not going to have a parking lot. It's not going to look like a traditional repair facility. Our vehicles are really sophisticated, so we need a very specialized, calibrated equipment, as well as a lot of technology to work on these vehicles. We work on Jags, Land Rovers, Bentley, and Rolls-Royce, and the occasional Bugatti. So we do have a lot of fun with these beautiful cars. I wanted to tell you a little bit about us. So my husband, Tyrone, who was actually born in Slough, England, and at the age of 16 decided he wanted to go into the repair business. So he was able to do a mobile repair business, and several years later, he was recognized for his business acumen and how he was able to conduct business. So he was offered a job at Jaguar, London? Meta Burnham. That was a big dealership in England. They sent him to the Coventry factory, where he was able to get his training, went back to the dealership. He then became a master mechanic and won a distinction. The distinction is 100% on his training. So in other words, he got a distinction on electrical. He didn't miss a question. He did really well on that. He came to the United States and then opened up Carlsbad British Motor Cars, where we've been in business for 25 years. So we have a long-standing history and a lot of dealer training, factory training, and continuing training. So we're very specialized. Myself, I was a corporate investigator for 20 years. I worked in the private sector. Then I met Tyrone, we got married, we had a child, stayed home for a while to take care of our daughter, and then actually was recruited by the new Land Rover Jag dealership opening up in Carlsbad at the time. So I was really excited. So I went ahead and I went there. During that period of time, I was able to receive a lot of training on the vehicles. I won Masters Guild twice, which meant I got to go to England. And I also, when I retired from the dealership due to an injury, I was top female salesperson in North America. So needless to say, what's in our blood are cars. You know, a lot of people, they collect shoes, but we collect cars. So, and then my daughter, the reason I bring my daughter into this is because she actually, while going to college, she worked for Tyrone, and she actually ran the office while I was working at the dealership. She's got a number of different degrees, but what's really interesting is she moved up here and she works for Amazon now as a safety specialist, and she's also an EMT firefighter out at Parma. So she really loves to give back to the community as well. But as a family, We have enjoyed our home church in San Diego for 25 years, and we still Zoom. It's very difficult leaving them. They are definitely our family. Giving back to us is very important. And when I say that, in Carlsbad, we had first responder appreciation days where we would make food, and the guys would just stop by on their daily shifts in order to get some food. So it was really nice being able to give back to them. We always had a hot cup of coffee or a clean bathroom in case they needed it. And we love rescuing fur babies from Mexico. So as you can see, we have Harry, Larry, Mary, and Boo. And so those are our babies now. And we love sushi. So that's kind of who we are. But more to our roots. So this is our current facility in Carlsbad. And again, we've been in business for over 25 years and are very well respected, but we are not just a garage. We are a boutique experience. So in other words, if people come in, the facility has to be stunning. It has to be clean. We run our company like a dealership. That's very important for us. And because of that, we're very, very well known for our service and our good practices within the community. Having said that, because of that acumen that we have with the community, we have been able to work on customers' cars. See, this particular car right here, this is a $10.5 million Delahaye. We won a blue ribbon at Pebble Beach for best in class on that. We also won best in class first place. It looks very similar to this. It's a 1961 Rolls-Royce Sedanka. I think there's only 7 of them left in the world, if that's not correct. Anyway, we won a blue ribbon at La Jolla Concourse for that. Anyway, what we're looking forward to doing is we're looking forward to making those partnerships here and conducting business and bringing our customers here so that they can spend some of their tax dollars here in our community. So this is our project. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the old English countryside personality to Star. We are really excited about using the new architectural overlay and making an example to all other businesses coming into Star. We will be using the Dark Skies initiatives because again, right behind us is the HOA. We're all, some people have their bedroom windows and we want to make sure that we're being very good neighbors. We're going to be using some different materials that I want to discuss further as we go along. But it's going to be very understated. We're going to have lots of texture. We're going to have lots of nice greenery. And it's going to be a really beautiful facility, but very understated. So this is going to be phase 2. So we're going to do phase 1 first. This will be phase 2. This will be well after phase 1 is done, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what that looked like. This is going to be what it's going to look like once the whole phase is done. So again, phase 2 is going to be right here, or phase 1, that's where we're going to start. And then this will be phase 2 later on down the line. So I want to talk a little bit about the building materials that we're going to be using. And those are, we want to use some vinyl siding. And if I can pass this along. This is.
So you have to speak in the microphone so it gets picked up online.
So I've got some samples I want to pass along. And what I want you to know is this is not your dad's Oldsmobile. Absolutely not. This is architectural grade. It's commercial grade. And a lot of businesses are using this now because with the cedar shakes especially, due to fire risks, they're not really wanting to use those any longer. But this particular siding, and I think Michael's going to touch a little bit on that for me a little bit later. It's got durability. It's going to be batten board. It's got color retention. It's got curb appeal. It doesn't fade. It's got UV ray protection. It doesn't warp. It's low maintenance and it's environmentally friendly. And it's got a lifetime warranty. It's made in the United States. And it's a lot like when you drive down the street and you see stone on a building. Typically, that's not real stone. That is faux stone. And the reason that they do that is because of the maintenance and the upkeep. And this is not going to save us any money. Really, what this is all about is maintaining the building so that we don't have to worry about painting. We don't have to worry about maintaining. It'll maintain itself. We just simply have to wash it off here and there. And there's a reason why these products are being used now, the synthetic versus the wood materials that are going to be taking, paint and maintenance and that sort of thing. The building itself is going to be, we're going to have in the front, we're going to have the stone flower boxes. In the back, around the back of the building, we're going to do this fence with the metal fencing, and that will go around so that it'll be facing Star Road. So it'll be really lovely in front of, and then we'll talk about the greenery in just a moment, but sorry about that. We're going to have cedar, and we're going to have cedar accents. So it's going to be really lovely. It's going to have all kinds of different textures. Our landscaping is going to be interesting because it's going to be based on the Treasure Valley approved selection guide. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill in more details as we get ready to plant, but we're going to be wanting to plant ferns and roses and shrubs and just lots of beautiful greenery around the building to make it look really nice. We did have a neighborhood meeting, and we met with the neighbors, and this was very, very important to us. So the issues that the neighbors were concerned about were privacy, noise, lighting, and vegetation. So here's what we came to a conclusion to overcome those. We are going to build, and you can see here, we're going to build a fence along the creek that will age, and it will look very natural as it ages. We're not going to cut down any trees, but we will need to trim just to make sure that the fence gets along that property line right there by the creek. Again, we're going to work with the garage doors down as much as possible. That's going to eliminate the noise. We're going to be doing the Dark Skies Initiative, which is going to help with the lighting. We did tell them we're going to put the security lighting on the buildings that is motion sensor, just in case that, there's somebody on the property, it will light up. And we have 3 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. What I'd like to do now is, I'm sorry, I'm like Michael to come talk. I got a little carried away. Sorry about that.
Okay. So Michael, I'm just going to do this. So she had 3 minutes left, and he has 3 minutes.
She had a few more than that.
So I'm going to give you 6 minutes.
I am so sorry.
So,
Mr. Mayor, honorable counselors, so my name is Michael Keys. I live at 338 South Long Bay Way. And just for the record, I have had a fair amount of ex parte contact with the applicant.
yeah, thank God it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Right?
So one of the things that the applicant's asking for is for an exception. They are looking to do a gravel lot on this property. But this is not just, spread gravel that you pull out of a pit and put some pit run down there and say, oh yeah, we're good. This is actually an architectural level product that uses GeoGrid. It's actually will possibly cost them even more money than doing asphalt, but it'll allow stormwater to infiltrate. It'll give it a nice high-end look. You can see in the center, there's a picture of one of the many geotech or GeoGrid products that are out there to do this. Some of those products will handle up to 1 million pounds per square foot. You can run snowplows on them. You can do all kinds of stuff, but it does bring the look and feel that they're looking for in this project. I did want to talk about the site challenges. You can see the highlighted area there. That includes all of the areas that are bound by easements on this parcel that they can't build on. So there's easements for irrigation ditches. There's easements for Star Sewer and Water. And there's a 24-foot, I don't know why they picked 24, but it's a 24-foot wide easement for ingress egress, even though our code requires a 25-foot two-way driveway, which they'll obviously do. But it is bound up by that 24-foot easement. So as you can see, the building that they're asking for tucks in there pretty nicely with not a lot of extra space, and it's because it really can't. When phase 2 comes, you can see it'll also be bound up pretty hard there as well with easements. I did want to also put in there that in order to make this work with the phases, we did want to move the property line with just through the administrative lot line process 25 feet to the south. On the left there, it shows where the existing property line is, and it shows we want to move it 25 feet to the south, which should be fairly straightforward.
So just real quick, Michael,
Mhm.
this administrative, so the council's not going to approve a lot line adjustment tonight, right? Correct? Yeah, okay, all right.
And I understood that. I just wanted the council to see it.
Yep.
We want to talk about parking. So as Liz talked about, this is a boutique facility, and it doesn't really fit the prescriptive model of an auto repair facility. And when I say prescriptive, I mean, when you look at, how many spaces you're supposed to have per square foot for an auto repair facility, they don't actually really fit that model. Although what they've shown here, when you consider indoor parking and outdoor parking, actually exceeds what's required. But probably the only time they'll ever use that is when they're having car shows on their property, and we all get to go look at, Bentleys and cool things like that. That their current facility, they have 15 spaces, and that's the only time they fill those is when they have car shows. It's kind of hard to see, but there is some cars here ghosted that shows the inside. There's a pass-through car. There's some in this driveway here. There's one here in their wash bay. They have a wash bay. So, with that, I also, before we get into questions, I had a couple things I wanted to comment on the staff report. So one of the things they'll do is they will comply with all of the requests that staff had for additional submittals. For instance, they'll do a more complete landscaping plan. And I also want to talk a little more about the vinyl siding. Vinyl siding is not a material that's prohibited in the architectural overlay district. It's not prohibited by city code, and it's not prohibited by our comprehensive plan. And what it really is like the family of products like faux stone, like masonite. There's a bunch of things where the industry has gone to synthetic materials. I mean, the siding that's on almost every house and building in the valley here is not wood, it's masonite, which is a synthetic product. This vinyl siding is like that. It's like faux stone, and it's an industrial type product that will be beautiful and durable, and it will put up with things and not be a fire hazard. So I know that there's questions about vinyl siding because we've all seen the crap that Danny DeVito used to sell on his old TV movies and whatnot, but this is not that. I also wanted to mention that once we get into engineering, we'll come up with a plan, but all stormwater will be retained on site with either a retention basin or some type of a subgrade dispersion. We also did meet with Chief Tominski, and he's okay with using the phase 1 lot, which they're not building on now, for a temporary turnaround for the fire truck. And then when
So which one's phase 1?
here, let me just go back to that. So phase 1 is this part. That's what they're building now.
Can you
So-
describe that?
That's the northern parcel.
Okay.
So the southern parcel, he's okay with using that. And then when phase 2 comes, they can have just an emergency fire egress only that goes around the building using turf blocks or something to tote the load through that one common area lot that's there. And so, but he said that would be a phase 2 project, but we have a path, and he was okay with it. I have reached out to the property manager for the commercial subdivision there. There's 3 businesses that are currently operating in that area. Actually, I guess there's 3 or 4 more across the street. I haven't been able to get a hold of her yet, but I wanted to understand the details they have with how they contract for their trash facility. There's an enclosed trash facility there now that West Side and those other businesses are using, and half of that enclosure is actually on the Flowers property. And by the way, the Flowers did close on that, so they're now the owners. I know staff report showed a different owner, but they've closed on that. So once I get a hold of her, we'll be able to fill in more details about how that works. I'm not anticipating that that's going to be any type of challenge. It's just more crank turning that has to happen. One of the million details that you have to do to pull off a project like this. And with that, I think Liz and I can stand for any questions you have.
Okay, anybody have questions of the applicant?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
so I'm curious about the number of staff that you'll have. How many will you have, employees?
Well, there'll be somebody in the office. and typically that would be my husband because he'll be running the facility. We hope to have at least 3 mechanics.
Okay, so a total of 4. And then you're proposing only 9 parking spaces, is that correct? Or there's more?
No, as I showed, we actually have 23.
Okay,
So that was, although some of them are indoors, but there's a total, I think, 16, 17 outdoors and the rest are indoors.
okay.
Yeah.
So 16, 17 outside and then, so 4 of those would be by staff, more than likely. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I might also add that the requirement is 21, but we were furnishing 23.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor and Council, for clarification, 21 for this phase.
Correct.
41 spaces are required for the entire site.
okay. And so 40, do you have more in the other space that you're proposing in phase 2?
Yeah, so we didn't actually show them here, but when we get the phase 2 building done, we'll obviously we'll add those additional parking spaces. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm sorry.
yeah,
So this picture that's here is just phase 1?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
and that's a southern building, right?
That's actually the northern
northern
lot, yeah.
section.
The one that's up against the storage
Oh, gotcha.
facility and not the one up against West Side.
Okay.
And
Oh, and then one more question. What hours of operation are you looking at?
Typically, we're open,
No, address the council.
we'll be open from 8 until 6, and then Saturdays, we're open from 10 until 2 or 9 until 2. But typically on a Saturday, it's to pick up cars that people haven't been able to pick up during the week, or to do paperwork, or to, address other issues
Okay,
like that.
and then Sunday you're closed?
Well, absolutely.
Okay,
That's Sabbath.
is that all your questions?
yep, that is all my questions. Thank you.
I want to real quick, just want to follow up with Sean real quick, our staff. The 20, would you say there's 23 in there? Trying to look.
Correct.
The 23 spots is enough for this first phase?
I believe 21 is the requirement.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Sorry,
And-
Councilman Wheelock.
And so counting the indoor spaces is part of the 23? Is that a thing that staff has any issue with?
No, staff understands the uniqueness of this type of business. We just want to make sure that there's ample parking as there's no other places to put people when you can't park on Star Road. Unless they got a parking agreement, cross-access agreement from West Side, they'd have to contain that all on their site. So we just want to make sure they have plenty of parking. Sounds like they can work through that. Our main concern that you have to look at is the paving of the parking lot versus the gravel.
Yeah, Councilman Wheelock.
So speaking of the microphone for me,
Councilman
sorry.
Wheelock, we don't intend it to have cars to bring in to just sit there or to park. We want to get the cars in and we want to get the cars out. Oftentimes now, when a car comes in, it needs parts, we send it home until the parts are in, and then the car comes back. In regard to the parking lot, the gravel, these are gravel lots that are done in England all the time. And what's really nice about these is their water filtration too. So the water is the way that they're constructed, there's a number of different layers. They can go from 88,000 pounds to 1,000,000 pounds rolling over them because of the way they're constructed. As the water comes down, it filters back into the ground. So not only, and you can plow them, you can do a snow plow on them. They are good through freezes, downpours. They use them in England all the time, and they're so architecturally pleasing. And when we talked to the HOA expressed a concern about having a sea of asphalt. When we explained this to them, they were really excited about the possibility of taking that before the council as a consideration.
Just to be clear, I have less concern about the way the parking lot looks. I understand what you're doing that way. I'm good with that part. It's what it looks like, the type of cars you're talking about. Not a ton of them are local. Where do they come in? How do you unload them? Are they shipped to you? I have friends that ship cars to Salt Lake to get their oil changed. Where's that happening on this site?
Councilman Wheelock, that's a very good question. Most of the vehicles I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there's a lot of those vehicles moving into our areas, Eagle, Meridian, Boise. There's only one dealership in the entire area to take care of those vehicles. Yes, there will be some coming in. Typically, those come in on a covered transport. They are taken off site, they are unloaded, and then they are driven onto site. And that's exactly what we do now. So we're not going to be taking them through the parking lot. The only thing that will come through the parking lot periodically would be a tow truck that has a dead car on it that needs to be dropped off and then, pushed into the building.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Councilman Hershey, do you have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say Danny DeVito was selling aluminum siding. Not final.
Awesome. So sorry, Sean gave me the hang on finger.
If we have enough parking, I'm fine. That's all my questions is. It seems to be fine. I think that gravel thing's cool, so I'm actually good.
Thank you, Councilman Hershey.
I'm intrigued by the architectural gravel thing to understand that more. I just look what happened with Solis, for instance. They had a gravel parking lot forever and they were forced to go pave it and put permeable stuff into that parking lot. I don't want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up or you up for, I know they do it in England and stuff, but that we're not setting ourselves up for failure in the
Mr.
future.
Mayor, one nice thing about the location is they would not be tracking gravel out onto Star Road because their access is through the southern commercial piece. We probably want a condition that they keep that cleared off and clean, any additional gravel going off to that.
So on
But
architectural gravel, then I guess with the form, I guess it's formed inside somehow and they packed in.
There's a geogrid. They're typically a plastic grid that not only holds the gravel from migrating, but it also provides structure which provides some of the weight bearing. But all of the things you would normally do in an asphalt parking lot, you're going to do here. You're going to have a sub base and you're going to have a mid base. You still have to do all that prep.
If you can see
So-
here, the way that this works, you've got the gravel here. This holds the gravel together, but there's bases underneath this. You can also put grass in there, but this is the way they build these gravel lots in England, and they're 100-year lots. All you have to do periodically is add a little bit more gravel to it as it settles. But these lots last over 100 years. And because of this geogrid that you're putting on there, you're not losing the gravel off to the sides. But the nice part about it is that it puts the groundwater back into the ground. And when it's doing that, it's actually filtering that water. And we are by that creek or irrigation ditch.
No,
It's a canal or a pond back there, I think, right? But can I ask you a question, Michael, real quick?
Yeah.
So if you have to retain the water on site and you have to do a seeping bed or something there, would this suffice over the top of that?
I need to know more about that, but when we get into engineering, we'll figure all that out. So.
Is that something we need a condition?
It in and of itself is unlikely to be adequate, in my opinion.
I forgot I got my engineer over here. Sorry.
And if I may, this is not going to be cheaper than asphalt. This is
I'm not
probably gonna be a lot.
I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at longevity and being able to
Yeah.
utilize
Yeah,
it
and-
appropriately.
But I'm familiar with the issue at Sully's and I understand the sensitivity, but that was basically pit run dumped into the lot.
Right.
And they lived with that for a long time. That isn't even close to what we're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah.
So-
Ryan Morgan, our city engineer.
Yes, this product's been around in this valley for as long as I've been working in this valley, so that's 22 years. There's multiple different varieties and types. I've actually used a grass paved version of this and used it for fire truck access through Bora High School parking lots to get around buildings and stuff like that. There's other schools that use them. Boise State University's used both the gravel and the grass versions of one of the products that's out there. So this is not that uncommon. This is something that definitely can be done. The biggest concern is when you do it correctly so you don't have the dust problem. I would say dust would be my biggest concern with a product like this. But again, we're not taking cars at high speeds through this parking lot. So I think dust is something that can easily be mitigated. Depending on which product they select and when they provide that as part of their engineering packet, I truly think that this is something that I, as a city engineer, can support. I've used similar products myself in previous places of employment.
So you would review that then in the construction drawings? and the-
Absolutely,
okay.
just as we'd review your
right.
grading for your parking lot, for asphalt, for anything else. That is something that we would review as part of the construction package.
Okay. I'm good.
Mr. Mayor and Council.
Yes, sir.
So the way the code is written, section 84B2B states that all off-site parking areas, including driveways and parking lots, shall be improved with asphalt, concrete, pavers, or bricks unless otherwise approved as allowed through this title. So you have the power to approve this alternative design. I guess one question I would have is you're still going to pave the handicap space, correct?
Oh, that's
Because
gonna be-
because
that's going to be cemented, yes.
Okay, or cemented, okay, to meet ADA requirements. So that's something that through this conditional use permit, you have the ability to do that with conditions on maintenance and dust and sign off from the city engineer on the drainage and things like that.
Okay.
I would envision that because you don't have solid surface, drainage is gonna be a lot easier to deal with. Potentially.
You get about half.
Hey, use the microphone there, dude.
With drainage, it reduces the amount of stormwater by as much as half, maybe even a little bit more than that, depending on the product and their total compaction. So drainage definitely becomes less of an issue with this type of a product.
Okay,
So, Mr. Mayor, if the council does decide to approve this alternative, we'll come back with a condition, then we can review it at the certificate of zoning compliance, because some of the other requirements in the parking section is establishment of spaces. I don't think they necessarily want to spray paint their beautiful gravel and things like that. So we can work with them on that if you do choose to approve this alternative.
okay, thank you.
And the other thing I forgot to mention, and I think it was really important to mention, was on this side right here where this easement is, what we're hoping to do when springtime comes is we want to put some grass there and some picnic tables so we can use it as a little pocket park for the community as well.
Everybody got to pay $5 to drive a Bugatti?
No, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
It's just that it's wasted space and we want to be able to use it, and it would be
Sure.
wonderful to put some picnic tables there for some of the neighbors.
Okay, perfect. Oh, you got to speak in the microphone there, staff.
What are you pointing at so I get it
Oh,
in the
excuse
minutes?
me. The easement over here in the springtime,
On the northern side of the property.
it would be
Yeah.
between the building and the storage unit facility.
Okay,
Yeah, for the record, that's approximately 55 feet of easement along the north property boundary that can't be built upon.
I know, there's all sorts of that down in these areas down here. Yeah, okay. Another question?
Yeah.
Councilman Wheelock?
How
You?
when you look at the gravel part of this, how do you design or measure your spaces for your parking that you're claiming? I guess is the
Does it
honest.
get striped?
Does it get striped? How do you identify that? Is there a way, or is that not a thing?
Well, I was just going to say, we have the fence right there. So we can actually, the fence is going to be right up. Well, if you look here, the fence is right up here. And then the parking spaces will be, and you can put signs on that fence right there, parking. So that there's, parking spaces along there.
Mr. Mayor, I guess, and Councilman Wheelock, I don't really know the answer to that, but I think we can find something that city staff would agree is reasonable.
To identify this parking stalls, basically.
This is the first time I've ever worked with anything like this, so I don't know what the answer is. There may be an established answer, but I don't know what it is.
Right, okay.
I guess my point is just so that the size is equal to the number of parking spaces that we're talking about.
Sure.
Not that it's shorter or narrower or
Right.
whatever. So that it's up to the same city standard that we're talking apples and apples.
Right, and when we did the count, that was done with the parking based on the city's requirement for a 9-foot wide spot.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Ryan, did you have any
Mr. Mayor,
comments?
Mr. Mayor, I want the assistant planner to discuss a little bit about the architectural design standards and specifically the vinyl siding.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So Mr. Keys is right, as he mentioned, that the vinyl siding's not called out in the design guidelines. It's also, so it's not prohibited or it's not allowed. I think it's one of those, the areas that what quite frankly wasn't really discussed and it hadn't really come up when we did the design guidelines. So certainly want to think that's something you're going to want to take into consideration during your approval process and how you want that moving forward, as this will potentially set the precedence of how we deal with that in the future in our CBD area. And then also, I think we've got some additional areas of the architectural overlay that need to be considered as well in your decision. Should you move forward with the application tonight, that those guidelines need to be met. And I think we certainly can make sure that as part of the zoning certificate that we can work with those conditions with the applicant, should you choose to do that.
Okay.
And just to add to that, I think the intent of the code or the design guidelines is not to allow your cheap white vinyl siding that we all know and can point out. And this doesn't seem like that's that type. So again, this would be something that the council could approve. And then I would suggest maybe we look at that in our architectural design guidelines and clarify that a little bit more. And maybe as a council approved decision, if someone wanted to propose vinyl in the future, something like that. But you do have the power to approve that as well.
Okay. Councilman Hershey, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right,
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman.
can you go back to the exterior drawings?
Like this one?
Yeah, and then the one that's along State Street.
That one?
Yeah, so the bottom one is that State Street where the guy's walking?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Star
Star
Road.
Road.
Star Road, yeah, thank you. All right, yeah, because personally, talking about that over the architectural overlay, you know, it just to have a solid wall, I don't think was our intention in that plan. And so I would really like to see, you know, some
Deviation.
Yeah, exactly. And is it an option to add windows on that side of the building or I'm just curious.
Well, first of all, I want to point out that because of the way this lot lies, although that has a view from Star Road, that's actually the rear of the building, and rear setbacks and standards are what applies there. Because there's no entrance on and off of that off of Star Road. It all comes off of Hercules. So that is technically the rear of the building. But I also want to point out that right next to that is Westside Pizza and Evergreen Architecture and another business whose name I can't recall. And they also have the rear of their building facing that with the same setback with solid walls. I don't believe they have any windows either. So in a sense, it's actually kind of blending in with the commercial businesses that are already there.
But we also, I just want to point out that our whole intent is to make sure that we're not dealing with a wall struck all the way down Star Road when we started doing this, right? To have,
Similar to Plummer, sorry.
right,
Right.
right,
Or looking at the Merc, you know, I mean.
right, where it's
that's-
just a wall along
Right,
there.
people are walking along there, just to, you know, make it
Break
aesthetically.
it up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what is our, I can't remember honestly, what does our architectural overlay say on the number of types of stuff that we have to use? I mean, honestly, so this is nothing against what you guys are doing. This is our truly first time utilizing that architectural overlay to a project.
So
In here.
if I might, when you talk about breaking it up, what types of things are you thinking about?
Well, when you look at this, so if I were to look at this wall along Star Road right here, right?
Pre of those trees being big and breaking it up that way.
It's just not all vertical. I mean, when I look at that, I granted it's gonna probably change when you do your drawings and stuff, right? But if you were to look at this and visualize this right now, that wall where that major part is on the north side, I would guess that is, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's all, to me, it just looks like all vertical siding,
80 foot of building.
all the way on, 80 foot of building for vertical siding without any architectural changes and stuff on there. For instance, with O'Reilly's was trying to do that down the street and we went to them and said, no, you need to put some stone around the bottom and wrap it and do things like that, right? To
And-
break it up.
And in the plan, it says it's 360-degree architecture. And so blank walls are not desired. Therefore, all sides of a building are encouraged to incorporate some architectural feature. So
So if there were like high windows, that type of thing, would that be helpful?
I think it might be, just working with staff to, I don't know if we right here tonight want to, say what we want it to, how it's to be designed, but I think with staff, working with staff, that you guys can figure something out.
Well, Councilwoman, thank you for bringing that up. I think that I didn't really explain that well enough. This is a 16-foot building right here. So what we are planning on doing is putting a number of the very tall trees there, and in between the smaller trees, and then in between that, we're going to be doing, like knockout roses and that sort of thing. So you're not going to actually see the bottom of that building. Along this side, what we've done is we've done an architectural wall with stone and then metal on the top. So, and then there's going to be all kinds of plantings along that as well, based on the guidelines that Boise has set forth. So the name is going to go up there, but because of the trees, we could certainly put the name here. We could do something here to really, because I think this might be the only area that's going to be of issue because of all the trees that we'll be planting and landscape here. Does that make more sense, or does that answer your question, or not quite? Or
I don't know if moving the sign is quite getting me to where
okay,
but yeah, like I said, I think if
Okay.
we just work with staff,
okay,
that you guys can figure out
okay.
something, just.
I mean, you got on there, you're gonna use metal, vinyl, stone, cedar,
Right. And it
right?
might be as simple as some
Just
awnings in the back.
changing it, just,
Or
what
some
we
big
don't
windows
want,
or something.
I'm gonna go back to what Councilman Wheelock said, we don't want the Plummer Road effect,
No,
right? Especially on something that, for me, that has high quality vehicles and stuff that are doing that. I just think we want it to be very attractive and be a centerpiece, right? And be the standard, I guess, for us on this new venture we have with the Central Business District architectural overlay.
And
on
maybe
there,
it's
so
a mix
that's it.
of materials.
Well, yeah,
like-
you're saying you're using those, so just
Right.
see if you can make it work.
Include that on the back as
Windows
well.
wouldn't hurt breaking it up, though.
Yeah.
That's a start, because it would contrast the side of the building. I don't think moving the name is an issue for me. I like it where it was at. Doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned, but just to break up that 80-foot, 16-foot wall building.
Right, and so if we did some tall, I don't want to do windows at grade level, I wouldn't think, but if we did some taller windows, maybe some awnings over it, that just adds some three-dimensional,
Yeah.
little bit of bling.
Something. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, and
Yep.
through the certificate of zoning compliance and the design review, we can work with the applicant on that. And keep in mind that our new requirements in the code will have two of you look at that before staff approves it. So you guys will have some eyes on it in addition to us. And I think we can come up with something. We've got specific standards that gives examples of what you can do to break up those facades, and especially up against the public right of way. I think we can work with you guys without it being too difficult.
Okay. I would just suggest, if you're gonna do trees, and use that evergreens. They're green all year round, right?
that's what we're
Not
doing.
stick, yeah, okay, good.
That's what we're doing, sir.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll move on to, we have Bodie Hanson signed up to speak. And again, state your name and address, sir, please, for the record. And you can pull that mic up to you, so it gets picked up pretty good. Thank you.
I am Bodie Hanson. I live at 632 South Hydra Avenue. This is actually going to go right in my backyard. And so probably the biggest impact person here. I'm not super concerned about the gravel or anything like that. All those things are just fine. The oil that's going to seep into the pond concerns me because there is no capture for that. If that becomes an issue, because the pond does have fish, it does have wildlife in it, and all that really does kind of play a role in why we bought our house where we did. The only other concern that I have, and like I said, I didn't say I was for or against this project. I'm kind of neutral on it. I just have concerns as it goes through. The only other concern I have is just the longevity of the British Motor Company business here. If they do go out of business within a year because there's not enough business to support them, this turns into a pretty high traffic chop shop. And it's going to be a really rough sell to get people in here because it is a very specific place. And I just worry that it's going to turn to trash real quick. I think they'll do a fabulous job keeping it up as long as they're the owners of it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there was nobody else that signed up to speak. We did have Sarah Keys sign up that said she's for it, and Brian Oliver that signed up that said he's for it as well. Did you have something else? Okay,
Mr. Mayor, the gentleman brings up a very good question that staff actually didn't propose in the conditions, but because you would be upon approval, approving this specific use with what I consider reduced parking, reduced standards for paving and things like that. In the event that they did sell it in the future, someone could come in and they could all of a sudden start changing oil out in the gravel rather than doing it inside. The things that they're saying they're going to do indoors might be outside at that point. So I think we need to seriously consider some conditions specifically to this applicant, and maybe even require a new conditional use permit if they sell the property or rent the property out, and they're not doing the use. And if that, it sounds like that's reasonable to them. And that way we get another chance. We do another public hearing, so the neighbors would be able to hear it. Basically start over again. At that point, you might require it to be paved to meet those
Right.
requirements. So I would strongly suggest that as a condition of approval.
all right. And then, yep, so we have nobody else sign up to speak. Do you want to come back up, Michael, or to speak? Because I do have a question for you after you get going, but you might be able to answer it already. So,
Mr. Mayor, honorable counselors. Yeah, I did want to point out that of course, there will be sand and grease traps will be required. I know that they want to have a wash bay, and there's already been a discussion that the district's going to require that for their wash bay anyway. There's an existing sand and grease trap on the facility already that actually is halfway on their property, but in speaking with city engineer, I don't believe that they have access to that. So we'll have to come up with a different one. Yeah, I show the same concern. I wouldn't want a bunch of oil floating in the water feature in my backyard either. We also had, for the record, we had discussed making the CUP apply only to this business and making it a condition of approval that if they did sell the business or turn it into something else, that they would have to come back for a different CUP. And I think that would be a terrific condition to have on here. And I'm going to let Liz discuss how far they attract business from, because I think some people might be surprised about that this is not just a star business. So anyway.
I'll make this quick, I promise. Thank you, Honorable Councilman and Mr. Mayor. Currently, we have customers that ship their cars in from Hawaii to our Carlsbad location in California. We work with celebrities from all over California. We've also done cars from movies, which have come from the LA area and then have gone to other areas. We have customers who are in these clubs who have very expensive cars who only want us to work on them, so they will be sent in from there as well. So we are wide ranging. Additionally, a lot of our customers have come to this area for the same purpose we have, because it's such a wonderful place, and they're really looking forward to us servicing their cars. A lot of these vehicles are coming from Eagle, from Meridian, from all over the place. And in fact, we tried to service our vehicles because we don't have a facility, and they were 8 weeks backed up. So the business is there, and our customers come from all over. Yeah, our bread and butter is Rovers and Jags.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Nope, you answered it because I was gonna ask about the Santa grease trap. So that answers my question.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, when we go through engineering, that'll all be addressed and Mr. Morgan will be all over that, I'm sure.
Yep. Councilman Wheelock?
We talked about those cars that are getting shipped in.
Mhm.
And my concern is they're getting unloaded off a transport on Hercules or whatever that road is right there in front of West Side. When you said they were going to be unloaded offsite, what does that mean to you? So that I can understand, so it's not in the middle of the road out in front of the businesses.
Well, that could mean in the Albertsons parking lot, in the very corner where it's not being used. There's a lot of different areas where we could unload our vehicles and then drive them on, because all of the vehicles that are coming in, unless they're coming in on a tow truck, are movable, that can be driven. We do not plan on driving down Hercules and stopping traffic and unloading them there. That just wouldn't be a good neighbor.
I guess you can condition it so it doesn't,
Could that be one of the
Yeah,
conditions,
you
right?
could.
And as far as the oil goes, we have, right now in Carlsbad, we have a company, we store our oil based on the EPA standards. We have a company that comes in, takes our oil. So we're very careful about our oil, and I do understand absolutely the concern with the wildlife there. So I just want you to know that we do everything via those standards as far as waste oil.
Okay. You got a question?
Yeah, one more question. So regarding the outdoor, like the trash receptacle enclosure, were you planning on keeping it? I think your plan, it was to share it with West Side Pizza. Or is that still in the plan, or were you going to go with staff's recommendation?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Solomon. So at this point, what we want to do is talk to the property manager who's doing that and find out what the current agreement is. I believe they have that enclosure has room for 2 bins. They're currently using 1. So I don't know if they all kind of throw in together and use the whole thing, or if we'll, just use one of the, or excuse me, the Flowers will just use one of the bins. But we have to figure that out, and we'll, obviously when we do, we'll work that out with staff. But,
Okay,
yeah.
and if needed, you can put it on you'll find a spot on your property.
Yeah, that enclosure is already half on the Flowers property and
Okay.
half on the other property. So,
And
Okay,
Madam Councilman, we don't generate that much trash. We generate a lot, cardboard boxes and stuff that we cut up, but we don't generate that much trash.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
David, Councilman Hershey, you have any comments?
Not now. I'm satisfied.
Must have been him. Okay. All right. Hearing none. Thank you. It's 7. Do you have any questions of staff before I close the public hearing there? Kevin or Jennifer?
I'm still confused about the parking, the number of parking. Does it meet our current code? How many parking spots are included or not?
Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman, I think it meets the intent of our code, and you can approve that intent within this conditional use permit. Again, with the understanding that they're a unique type of business that's going to be storing inside, not having a whole lot of drop-off traffic and things like that. I think our code doesn't take into consideration unique businesses like this. It's a general repair shop.
Okay,
And so we want to make sure that there's enough parking. I think in this case, the intent is there.
yeah,
And
okay,
again, through the zoning certificate, we can work out those details. What you're really doing tonight is you're approving the land use. You're approving the waiver of the parking surface and the proposed parking space alternative. Did I forget anything? Okay.
okay, thank you.
So we've talked about, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Wheeler.
we've talked about the amount of parking spots, and some are in and some are out, all of that. And a planned use of this nature for this business, and relooking at it, if the business changes, how do we go back and fix the parking problem for whatever future use would be needed, if that were the case? How do we go backwards?
may I?
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Wheelock, if need be, that area to the north would support far more outdoor parking than is required. And even though it's all bound up in easements, you can park on easements. If somebody wanted to go back and rework
And
that.
they're just gonna make,
Thank
they're gonna make it a park.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor and Council, that is correct. Staff did analyze and we could get enough parking through in the back, on the side and things like that. So I'm not concerned that by them building their square footage, that a new shop would not be able to meet the current requirements.
Yeah, as long as there was an option, if we have to go the other way, I hope you don't have to go the other way ever, honestly.
Right.
But as long as there's options.
And there is.
Perfect. We good?
Yep.
Thank goodness. It's 8:00. We're gonna close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you so
All right.
much. We really
10 o'clock here.
So, well, I know it's 10:00 in New York. Sorry. Mr. Finger on there. So it's 8 PM. We're closing the public hearing and we're gonna go to council deliberation. Go ahead, Miss Jennifer.
I'm satisfied with it.
So you want to make a motion?
Nope, I don't want to make the motion. There's,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I'm satisfied. I
Mr. Mayor,
think
I'll
I-
make a motion then,
Okay.
but make sure I capture everything. All right. I make a motion, we approve this with, the first thing is the CUP is, non-transferable if, the company folds, which I seriously doubt, or changes their mission, which I also seriously doubt, the CUP would be null and void and a new one have to be submitted. I like the idea of I'm going to call it the enhanced parking. I believe staff could work out the details of what the along Star Road sides to look at, the striping of the parkings to look at, the vinyl siding, as long as it's not basically the Danny DeVito stuff in the aluminum world. The high quality stuff, and staff is satisfied with that. I think a lot of little things have been left in the hands of staff, but it sounds like things they would be very well versed in handling. So to approve the project with all those conditions, and of course, unless I missed something.
Did you get all the conditions that were spoken about there, Sean?
Yeah, also address loading areas, which we can
Oh,
do.
and we need to address the loading area and the condition. Councilman
Yeah, the
Hershey.
loading area is,
So no loading
No,
or
I
unloading
can't tell
on
you.
Hercules or
But,
Star Road.
yeah, don't unload on Star Road.
Or
I know that
Hercules.
on West Side, they unload sometimes, their deliveries right there. It's the closest they can get.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, I think you got it all. So I'll go ahead and second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
David Hershey,
Aye.
Kevin Wheelock,
I,
Jennifer Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 3-0. Welcome to Star. Thank you.
All right. I think it's gonna be cool. I really
Yep.
do.
We can't do that. Actually, we can't. Oh. Is it a green Jeep?
We gave these out to the neighbors when we went and talked to them, and we wanted to give some. to you
It is
as
a green
well.
Jeep. It's like my Jeep.
Councilman Hershey, I have one for you as well.
Yours will be moldy.
Oh, well, thank you. I can't see what it is because you're about a millimeter large, but
Okay. So we're
Well,
gonna move
this
on.
is
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Thank you, by the way. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think
Okay,
it's all
we're gonna move
right.
on to item 5, an action item for the Park Art and Beautification Committee appointments. Nominated Vicky O'Keefe and Marilyn Jensen to the Parks Art and Beautification Committee. And I would entertain a motion to approve that.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
I'll move to approve their appointment for Vicky O'Keefe and Marilyn
Hey,
Jensen.
shh. Okay, go ahead. Say it again.
Okay, I move to approve the appointment of Vicky O'Keefe and Marilyn Jensen to the Parks Art and Beautification Committee.
Okay, we got a motion. We have a second.
second.
We got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
I,
Salmonson,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Item 5B, the DEQ air quality. I'm gonna have Miss Jennifer talk about this, about possibly changing the code that requires emissions control within the city of Star.
All right. So basically, currently we
All right.
traffic or Vehicle emission testing is required on 3 different levels, the federal, the state, and the city. The state has changed they passed a new law, a bill, that will go into effect in July 1st of 2023, which strikes the requirement for vehicle emission testing. So it would still be required on the federal level and the city level through our city code. The Idaho DEQ is going to be making a presentation to the EPA at the federal level, recommending that the EPA no longer requires the state to have vehicle emission testing. So if EPA agrees to that, then it will only, the laws, it would only be in effect, it's determined by the city. And so Air Quality Board, they are looking for, if those two other, federal and state, if they no longer require vehicle emission testing, what the city of Star would like to do, if we would continue with that requirement or if we would take it out of our ordinance. From what I hear from other board members is that they will, they're leaning towards going away from emission testing as well. I would support it for the city of Star due to the fact that the emission, it's gotten like much better in the environment. And so with the new vehicles, and DEQ has also said that, the data that they have, that our air quality is, we don't need to continue with this emission testing. So I would be in support of removing the emission requirement in our city code.
Okay,
So if anyone has questions.
so do you have a question on it? I'm gonna tell you, I'm all in favor. I always thought I've been a long time forever Idahoan, that it was an unjust tax on just those folks here in Ada County and Canyon County. And with the vehicles being as efficient as they are today, those folks, there's too many exemptions out there anyway to really make a difference. So
Yeah, it's been around since I believe 1984.
yep.
And we have met all of the requirements over the years. And so we're now at a time where, it's no longer needed.
So you guys would be making a motion, if you choose to do so, to remove this out of our code at such time that the state and the feds remove the requirement.
I say so moved.
Okay, we got a so moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Well, we will draft it, but
Yeah.
but this is for their meeting at the Air Quality Board, so they know next week on what we're doing.
Yeah,
Right.
so that we can budget. Yeah.
We would support them on untaxing us.
Untaxing us.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Huh? Yeah, Councilman Wheelock seconded it. Yep.
Yeah.
Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
I,
Hershey,
Aye.
Amundson.
I,
Sounds good. Hopefully we'll get rid of that one. You don't know where I really stand on that one, but. So it is 8:09 and we're going to adjourn the city council portion of this meeting and then we'll move into a budget workshop. Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
well, I'm